Alright, this is Josh Rubin. It's been a while since I have been filming. I've actually been traveling a lot. I finally took a course. I was up in Toronto, Canada, beautiful place if you ever got to get there. I was taking an osteopathic course up there on circulatory techniques in the diaphragm. I was home for a couple days, and now I'm actually in my hotel room in Whistler, BC. Beautiful place if you ever can get here. I'm speaking at a CanFit Pro Convention up here. But what I want to talk about, sometimes I go back and forth. I kind of lose track of what I should talk about. I feel like I don't have any more to talk about. I feel like what I want to talk about is too technical. But I'm going to start relating things to maybe myself and my clients and just coming up with things because it's been a couple weeks. So since I've gotten, I shouldn't say lack of sleep, but I've been crossing different time zones, I want to talk about sleep and the importance of sleep. There's a lot of people that come into our clinic. Sometimes they can't afford us. Well, the simplest thing I always recommend them to do is, number one, buy Paul Chek's book, How to Eat and Be Healthy. It's got everything you need in there. But at the same time, the cheapest, easiest principle to do is actually to work on your sleep. You get the most bang for your buck physically, emotionally, because when you feel better, you're more apt to do something. But also, you're regulating your hormones, okay? And I'll explain why. So our bodies are basically naturally wired into this rhythm. People say, well, I work the graveyard shift, I've changed it. Well, you can change your sleep rhythm, but the way your body releases specific hormones the day and the night, you can't change that. It's wired into your body. We're basically designed to wake up when the sun goes up and fall asleep when the sun goes down. And if you're actually getting enough sleep, you should be able to fall asleep when you want to fall asleep and get up when you want to get up. You shouldn't really need an alarm clock. And the healthier you get, the less you need your alarm clock. That's how you know that you're actually regulating your hormones, you're regulating your sleep cycles, your circadian rhythms, and you're actually getting more vital. Okay? Secondly, some things to think about. The body basically physically repairs itself from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. And it psychologically repairs itself from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Okay? This is why a lot of people like engineers, that's probably the biggest population I've worked with, that they can stay up late and still do their job. They still say, well, I can think and do my job. Well, if you look at them physically, they're typically kyphotic. They have pains, aches and pains. They have soft tissue restrictions. They look like a wreck, but they can use their brain because they're not repairing physically, right? They're not releasing the hormones physically to repair, but they're releasing the hormones psychologically to repair. But that can only last for so long. Typically, in a short amount of time, all hell breaks loose, and these people pretty much go into a catabolic state, break down, and they're chronically fatigued. Okay? The bottom line is stress hormones are awakening hormones. So think about it. You have your hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal glands. Okay, it's an axis in your body. Your pituitary actually sits at the junction of the optic nerve in the brain. So it actually receives signals from the eyes. So essentially, if you really think about it, the eyes are linked to the adrenal glands through the pituitary adrenal axis in the optic nerve. So what does that mean? Anytime the eyes see light, the body releases awakening hormones such as cortisol. Cortisol isn't bad. It helps us live. It regulates blood sugar. Okay? It regulates blood pressure. It does so many other things in the body. It fights inflammation, and on and on and on. This isn't about cortisol. But it's not bad for you. It's only when it's basically released in excess it's bad for you. Okay? So we're supposed to wake up when we see light. Well, the problem is we have all these people watching TV, reading in the light, playing on the computer late at night, and they wonder why they can't fall asleep. Well, those technologies emit flashing lights, and they constantly stimulate the eyes, which constantly stimulate the cortisol levels, which keep you awake. So you're releasing awakening hormones when you should be releasing sleep hormones or growth hormones in a sense. So the way the cycle goes, pretty much, it's pretty simple. I don't have a diagram in my hotel room. But typically you have a circadian rhythm. Okay? So typically if this is 6 a.m., hormones start to go up around 6 a.m. They level off around noon. These are awakening hormones like cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline, those. And you release them at the right times. There's a lot of them. Thyroid hormones. And then they start to go down like around 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and they're down around 9 o'clock. And when they come down around 9 o'clock, they're down. So this is basically the daily rhythm. They're down. So you're not releasing these awakening hormones. Well, you start releasing your sleep hormones, what we call your repair and regeneration hormones. So how do you know if you have altered sleep-wake cycles? Well, it's pretty simple. Typically nagging injuries that never heal, chronic aches and pains, chronic headaches, poor mental focus and concentration, being tired all the time. That's very common. It's pretty simple. You don't have to be a whiz to figure this out. Frequently getting sick, frequently getting cold, frequently getting the flu. Decreased sex drive is huge for that. Most people, in my opinion, that have decreased sex drive, it's a over release of cortisol in the body. When the body is releasing cortisol, your body's in a sympathetic state. Blood goes away from the digestive system, away from the sexual system, into the extremities and the eyes and the brain. So you can essentially move, fight, or do whatever you need to do. So it shuts those systems down. The example they use when you're in a sympathetic state, they meaning books, when you're running from a lion, you're not thinking about taking a shit and having sex, are you? No. So you don't need a pill. Another thing is excess body fat. Another thing that commonly happens with people that don't get good sleep-wake cycles is they typically will wake up, they take a long time to wake up, then they get a big burst of energy in the morning, then they crash, they eat lunch, they have a spike of energy, then they crash again, and they have these crashes, they have these ups and downs all day, and then when it comes time to bed, they're not tired, and they toss and turn all night. So if you have that roller coaster ride, well, you're essentially getting not enough sleep, or you have altered sleep-wake cycles. Now, we're not going to go into what can cause, we'll go into some, but not the deeper issues of what can cause sleep-wake cycles, but we can keep it simple. Typically work scheduling. If you're working a graveyard shift, well, it's called a graveyard shift for a reason. Lighting, television, computers, all those things towards the end of the evening will easily keep you awake. Poor blood sugar control. Not eating protein, carbs, and fats with every meal. Eating too many carbohydrates in relation to proteins and fats. Eating too much sugar, drinking juices, cokes, any of the bad stuff that you can think about. If you're commonly eating these during the days or at night, essentially eating dessert, these are going to keep you awake. The proof's in the pudding. It's pretty simple. Some other things are psychological stress. Financial stress is huge right now. Marital stress is huge right now. Stress at workplace, anything you can think of, any type of stress releases cortisol, awakening hormones. Okay, you're not going to fall asleep. If you're watching television, you're watching bad news about all the diseases out there, the deaths, the killings. I mean, if you're watching the news about bad, that's going to keep you awake. It's going to psychologically stress you out. Another big one is electromagnetic frequencies. What I commonly find is a lot of people that have trouble sleeping, I work with them, but one of the things I have them do is take their alarm clock and not put it beside their head at the bed, but actually take it and put it across the room. You'll be amazed how better you'll sleep if you take that and put it across the room. And as you get healthier, a lot of people actually will just eliminate it and take it out of their room. Another big thing is stimulants. A lot of people say, well, I can drink coffee at night and I sleep fine. Well, it's because you're in a state of adrenal fatigue, bottom line. If you're drinking stimulants at night, you're drinking wine at night, and you're wondering why you can't sleep, well, the effect is you can't sleep. The cause is the alcohol and the stimulants, okay? So what are some recommendations? Try to go on a sleep schedule. Work your way back for 15 minutes. Try to get to bed by 10:30. So if you're going to bed at midnight, go to bed at 11:45 the next 2 weeks. Then after that, go to bed at 11:30. Work your way down to 10 to 10:30. Don't get up any earlier than 6 o'clock. Okay? If you are, you're cheating yourself and you're not repairing and regenerating. Okay? Avoid bright lights 2 hours before going to bed. Keep the bedroom dark. A lot of people have TVs on, the shades are open. Try to keep the bedroom nice and dark to stimulate that repair and regeneration and stimulate the growth hormones to be released so you can actually sleep. Minimize sugar consumption, juices, stimulants, a lot of those things after lunch. Okay? If you want to do it before lunch, that's your deal. Don't do it after lunch, and it'll definitely help with your sleep. The other thing is make sure you're eating carbohydrates, proteins, and fats with every meal. That's super important. Okay? Just like an engine needs the right amount of fuel, you need the right amount of fuel. If you don't have the right amount of fuel, well, your finely tuned machine is not going to work properly. Another principle is stay well hydrated. What I find is when someone is dehydrated, the body actually steals water from the central nervous system first. So what you commonly see is restless leg syndrome. Not the reason why, but it's one of the reasons. I already talked about this. Take electromagnetic frequencies out of the room, such as TVs, such as alarm clocks. And lastly, but not least, exercise. A lot of people exercise late at night. This is going to raise cortisol levels when cortisol levels are starting to go down. Okay? So if you have altered sleep-wake cycles, you're gaining weight, you're fatigued all the time, you're having highs and lows, you feel like crap, I would say most people that come to see me, the most common thing they complain of is fatigue. Okay? Follow these principles, go to our website, learn more, and we'll see you next time.